Comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar. Ching, ching, bling, bling. Cut the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no matter. Bonus track, bonus track.
That will cost you extra. See you later, sucker.
You know, the guy in the booth who's talking to you on that tiny little earphone, he's afraid the guys at network are going to tell him it's through if he lets the guy keep talking like I'm talking to you. Because the corporation's got the networks and they get to say who gets to talk about the country and who's crazy today. I would cut to a commercial if you still want this job, because you may not be back tomorrow with this corporate mob. Cut to a commercial.
Okay, flush him.
Cut the commercial. Cut the commercial. Cut the commercial. Cut the commercial. Okay.
Hello and welcome to Overlapping Dialogue, a podcast of audio commentaries dedicated to discussing cinema or television specials that fascinate us in a way we hope fascinates you. We're your co-hosts, Kyle and Levi Huffman. I'm Kyle.
I'm Levi.
And here you are for a bonus episode, a special treat from the Overlapping
Before
Dialogue
the tricks
vaults.
and treats begin.
Yeah, Spooktober, Spooktacular is right around the corner. And we're going to
Before
do
that,
one
yeah.
episode before that, before we get
We're
into
going
that.
to dip into the Untouchables and Public Enemies. And what better time than to confront one of our great blind spots that we've always been interested in, which is
The mystery of
figuring
Al
the
Capone's
hell
vault.
out of the mystery of Al Capone's vaults from 1986, the Geraldo Rivera special. I guess it was common that they did things like this back then, where they would just be like, here's this thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to
But,
read us
yeah.
a little bit of context before we get into this. The mystery of, I'm just reading from the Wikipedia page. The Mystery of Al Capone's Vaults is a 2-hour live American television special that was broadcast in syndication on April 21st, 1986, one day after 420, and hosted by Geraldo Rivera. It's centered on the live opening of a walled-off underground room in the Lexington Hotel in Chicago, once owned by noted crime lord Al Capone, which turned out to be empty except for 30 million viewers watched, making it the highest-rated syndicated special in history. Rivera had inadvertently launched a no-news form of news,
Yeah.
where instead of reporting on news, entire programs were about the possible and hypothetical news, which I think is interesting.
Right.
Including in this were news channels counting down and hyping up an upcoming news event, like a presidential briefing.
Let's not forget, it's interesting you mentioned that he was tapped very early in the on the evening, that evening in 2011 when it was revealed that Osama bin Laden had been assassinated, and I know that they kind of did a similar thing where they were like, there's going to be a president, Obama's going to talk, and then they brought him on there, and he was like, what's he going to talk about? And everybody was talking about different things, and he was like, oh, I bet it's that, randomly, and so he corrected himself from being wrong here and looking like a fool. Now, he's always looked like
There's
a
a
fool,
lot of weird
but,
things
you know.
that particularly surround the Osama bin Laden death,
Yeah.
because hours before it was announced, The Rock famously had a tweet where he was like, yeah, just learned some great news that's
Yeah.
going to make a lot of people happy, or something like that.
Right, this is going to mean a lot of things to a lot of people.
And then there was like some
you know.
WWE live event or like pay-per-view or something that was going on where John Cena formally announced it to the crowd, which is a very famous video.
Yeah.
So that's just very fascinating.
And then also that was, I think, the evening that Trump decided
Yes.
he was going to run for president.
Very
right?
famously,
Yeah.
that was the White House Correspondents' Dinner where Obama made fun of Trump, and apparently
yeah.
that was one of the inciting incidents for why he ran. a few
Trump
years
never
later.
treated fairly. Well, considering the fact that Obama was literally burned in effigy because he was an African American, I think Trump was all right. I think it was all
But
right.
weirdly, just a lot of
Yeah.
import on that
Yeah.
random night in American history, as it
Yeah.
turns out. Not a lot of import on this. They tried to make it a big deal,
Yeah.
obviously. Again, neither one of us have seen this, so this is our own version of going into the vault and not being
well,
sure
it's
what's
weird
on the
because
inside.
now this would be just an inside. Now we understand this whole concept. This literally would just be an inside edition
Yes.
story. But this was a whole special. So, I mean, this all comes out of that, like I said, that infotainment, which I specialize
tabloid
in
journalism,
my job.
basically, made for television.
Yes, those listeners who know, I do specialize in infotainment. You know who you are. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that whole kind of like tabloid trash news magazine format.
Hard copy was big in the 90s, a little later.
And I know Geraldo was kind of a progenitor of that. So this will be an interesting what's what as far as
one of the TV godfathers
that
of that
kind of
movement.
trash. Any thoughts on Geraldo these days? I know we've kind of talked about him a little bit already. But
I don't know. I don't even know what he's doing really now anymore. Is
Well,
he on Fox News?
yeah, he was
consistently?
on Fox News as a pretty like
He's one of the kind of token liberal-ish.
Yeah, center left, but pretty center.
Yeah, right. Well, but left by their standards.
Or
but,
whatever that means.
And he's always like the one that's caught defending illegal immigrants or anything involving Latino Americans.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know,
because he's Latino. It's like
yeah.
racist in its own way. But
Right.
yeah, anyway, I can just defend that and not be Latino. How about that?
Right.
But whatever. Yeah.
But this definitely left like a checkered chapter in his career, because I mean, anybody who would do something like this and it ends up like this is going to have instantly be the person who did that is going to be one of the things that they're going to be most remembered for. But his popularity continued to rise in the 80s through the 90s as well. I mean, he's still a known figure who's out there.
Still a known boob.
I mean, one of the most famous mustaches in broadcasting.
I remember one of my favorite
also.
Mad Magazine in the 2000s, they made a joke at some point about, Geraldo in like a... Well, I guess that was during the Iraq War when he was like going and shooting footage of
probably being a correspondent.
Like being in war zones and stuff, and like being out there like, I'm right here in the middle of it. And basically, I don't remember exactly what the joke was, but it was basically saying, I hope he gets killed or something. It was just like, God, that's a little bit much. But,
just to speak about Geraldo here. Says he's been a political commentator who worked at the Fox News Channel from 2001 to 2023, so he might have just recently left.
Done.
He hosted the tabloid talk show Geraldo from 1987 to 1998. That's probably how most Americans saw him, and that would have been even after this. So he gained publicity with the live 1986 TV special Mystery of Al Capone's Vaults. Hosted a news magazine program, and that's always.
Yeah.
You see things sometimes called TV news magazine, like things being called televisual news magazines, Geraldo at Large. He was also a rotating co-host of The Five from 2022, which is one of the freaking worst shows on
literally,
Fox
like,
News.
if you want to be pissed off for a year, go watch one episode of that show. Like, is literally all you got to do. I think the interesting thing about these news magazines is like they attempt, not in this because this is all about one thing, but they attempt to be like, we're like a magazine. We kind of have the big stuff, and then we kind of, it's like this whole potpourri kind of thing of like, we'll talk about a lot of different stuff. And it's like, but it's just so trashy and tabloid. It's like, we're not talking about 60 Minutes here. You know what I mean? It's like we're talking about like.
60 Minutes. Right. Everybody would agree. I would even go as far as say 60 Minutes is consistently the best produced thing on television.
And we don't even watch it.
No, but you know when you settle into it, you're going to get a really high quality, no fluff, no.
Some of the best stuff
news.
I've ever seen. I remember watching on there.
They recently re-aired the an FDNY. Appreciation they had actually done last year, I think, for 9/11, and was truly an amazing thing. I actually showed some of that in class this week after 9/11.
I was watching some of that. I was actually out with somebody eating that evening and watching some of that on TV. 60 Minutes is great, but like I said, this isn't all this we're talking about isn't 60 Minutes. Like, this is something else. It's
just to read a little bit about him. There's some January 6th fallout stuff involving Sean Hannity that I want to read here. On December 14th, 2021, Rivera called to account texts sent by Fox News anchors, including Sean Hannity, to then President Donald J. Trump, asking for a forceful response to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol building, imploring, "I beg you, Sean, to remember the frame of mind you were in when you wrote that text on January 6th, and when Laura did, and when Brian did, and when Don Jr. did, remember that concern you had." So he's basically saying like he was warning Hannity that, you be careful of what you said or whatever, because that's going to be held into account. Later on, he announced on June 21st, 2023, that he would be departing The Five, the program we talked about earlier, on June 30th, but remaining with the network. A week later, he announced he had been fired from The Five hours before his scheduled June 29th appearance As a result, he quit Fox News after 23 years, citing, quote, growing tensions that go beyond editorial differences and personal annoyances and gripes. So, how many? By the way, how many times do you think he's been married?
5.
5. You got it. What do you win?
Well, he was on the 5, so I guess 5. But
there's a whole section here about his politics.
Yeah.
Said he is a Republican, just self-described as pro-choice, pro-gay marriage, and pro-immigration reform. How are you still a Republican then? I
was going to say he's one of these
kind of New York Republicans, or
that whole kind of like, I'm fiscally conservative, but socially liberal or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like, please, but
so he supports gun control.
that's nice.
He's also calls himself a Zionist who would die for Israel. Would die for Israel.
Okay.
It literally says.
What?
He would die for Israel.
Okay, well, whatever.
In 2008, he supported Obama, but then supported Mitt Romney in 2012. Despite his friendship with Donald Trump, Rivera was nonetheless confirmed that he did not vote for the candidate in 2016 election because of, quote, spousal influence.
Spousal influence.
He had previously said he would not vote for Trump because of comments made by the latter regarding Mexicans.
Yeah.
So, again, well, he's one of those real through the looking glass, what's he going to do kind of guys.
You never know. Yeah,
and again, I respect that because he's not easily.
Yeah, because he's very hated,
down.
I think, in the media. Like, I mean, because.
I thought the left look at him and roll their eyes and go, he's just a preposterous buffoon. Who cares? Yeah. The right would see him as, like, he's the token liberal, semi-liberal they bring on Fox News. So he's literally like has an audience of.
Or the token Hispanic in their case. Is what they. Yeah, I mean. But the thing is, with all that though, is that kind of like Bill Maher. It's like, are they doing something right? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying I'm a big Geraldo fan. I've never really been impressed by him in particular. But it's also
they should have a show together. Bill Maher and Geraldo.
I don't
Rivera.
think I've ever seen them together.
They just had to have had some interaction.
Definitely.
I can't
He's
think
had
of
to
it
have
off the
been
top of my
on
head.
real time at some point.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too, is like people were so hostile to Geraldo in the 80s and 90s that now most people would be like, whatever, but he just kind of has lived in the media landscape for so long that he's kind of just become Geraldo, and it just doesn't really matter.
So,
but anyway.
Here we go. The mystery of Al Capone's vaults. We're watching this from YouTube.
Make sure it's ready.
We're watching this on YouTube. So here we go.
You wanna count us down?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm Geraldo Rivera, and you're about to witness a live television event.
Geraldo.com.
Little
Digital watermark on the left side.
live from Chicago.
I mean, it goes without saying.
This look.
We talked about this. Like, how mind blowing is it that they would not go in ahead of time and check to see
like
if anything
us
was in
not
there?
watching it ahead of time. And although said they're not even totally sure either, but it's believed to be. It's like,
yeah, this is a font and everything.
Yeah. What?
It's a beer.
Oh, it's a beer. Okay, in
Stroh.
Chicago, I guess.
Anybody born in, or lived in the 80s, I should say, probably familiar with that brand. I'm not actually have heard much about it.
It's like you go back and look, and it's still a beer that's big in international markets. Carlsberg beer is a big soccer sponsor.
Welcome to the old Lexington Hotel, where 60 years ago, during the height of the Roaring '20s and Prohibition, this once lavish building belonged, or was the headquarters for, the notorious gangster.
Or was the headquarters for?
We're not sure.
We didn't do the research.
Yeah.
We just showed up.
A massive concrete chamber has been discovered, and there is evidence to suggest that that vault once belonged to Al Capone, the richest.
They're real hedging their bets even now, though. It's evidence suggests.
I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Make sure we're hearing it.
And eventually we're going to be taken together.
I hope so.
We're going to break open that vault. We're going to step inside. We're also going to step back into history.
He keeps looking over, like...
History of Chicago in the Roaring '20s. It's a history written with the rapid fire of Tommy guns, held by gangsters like Leon O'Banion. Nitti, and of course the Ruthless.
We'll be talking about Frank Nitti on the next episode
Yeah.
in his various forms.
Yes.
The extended
Yeah,
Frank
really,
Nitti
yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
An empire based on illegal booze, prostitution,
I already know all this stuff. You know, like.
Yeah.
secret passages, the hidden stairways of this once luxurious will descend 40 feet beneath the streets of Chicago into a vast and little-known tunnel system. One that may
This is crazy. Like, just the pace of this. Like,
here in Chicago, in Miami.
There's probably kids who are staying up watching this and like actually learn some things from
Yeah.
about Al Capone.
Who knew Al Capone personally?
but like I said, don't you think it's crazy?
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
Evil man. He seemed like just like a big roly-poly teddy bear to me.
He was just like any other hoodlum.
He was lovable. He was sweet.
Who do you think murdered your husband?
Al Capone then.
Wow.
The Lexington
Anyway.
Chicago's rough city, a bombed-out home. It's scattered.
Well, you know, like,
So this would have been, let's just do the math, like Capone went to jail in the
died
early
like the
30s.
40s, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, when he went to jail in the
Right.
early 30s, so this would have been like 50 years, 50 plus years after that era, even though, like you said, I think he
Right.
died in the 40s.
So, like, kind of 40 years after his death. I think
Yeah.
it was in the mid 40s. Like,
Quick with a joke and generous with a buck, but dominant was his dark side, his attraction to physical violence.
his attraction to physical violence, like, it turned him on.
Baseball,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Capone, America's public enemy number one.
He
Bye.
keeps walking. like, or,
Goodbye.
like, he don't know where to go. Like,
Elegant and classy place.
I feel like I don't know. It's the whole hotel looks so garbage now. I guess
Yeah.
it was, used to be a bigger deal.
Right.
I don't know what happened to
The
it.
floor was covered with ornate and beautiful tile mosaics, but Capone still transformed this.
but, you know, like I said earlier, it's so strange there was an era when they were like, let's do a whole daggum TV special on this. Like, you could get this done in, like, 10 minutes, like, now, like, and I'm not even saying it's a better way to do
30
it.
million viewers watched this.
Yeah.
Which that would have been a big deal back then, but especially now, 30 million is
Yeah.
a massive audience. Because nobody watches
Floors of the hotel
broadcast live TV as much compared to what it was in the 80s.
and living quarters for his legion of armed men.
His legion of armed men.
This does kind of look like some of the buildings in Boardwalk Empire a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like he's descending into like
Into hell.
into like
Yeah,
a
he's got all the smoke coming.
into like a Tom Waits music video or something like.
That's what they needed. Something like it's a backup, like Tom Waits, like on stage right next door. That way, if things fall apart, they can
They
go.
can just go over there.
Sydney Lauper.
Yeah.
There. Well, not on this episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, but is in just here now.
In the hotel, a raid happens. They come in the front door. He just came down this hidden staircase and then disappeared through a tunnel system that we'll show you later on. But over here,
Later.
main event. This is what you've come to see.
Yeah, I hope so.
The main
This
event.
massive concrete chamber, which some believe was built for Al Capone. Look at this.
Some believe.
For example.
Still hedging the
He has
bets.
spoken to the electrician who put, or rather, the son of the electrician who installed this wiring. The man said that he was working for Al Capone at the time he did the job. And why would you need electricity in a sealed chamber? Now, what, if anything, this vault contains? We have
What,
no
if
idea.
anything?
But we're going to find out tonight because we're going to take this wall down. It's about 5,000 pounds. The concrete is 22 inches thick. It's coming down tonight. Now, due to the thickness that seals the vault area,
I wonder if they were like gonna demolish this building around this time, and they were like, let's just go
That's
ahead and open
probably
it up
why.
and see what's going on in there.
I would have
like-
had to guess.
but now we are ready.
This is second only to watch Mike and Mike milk the cow on live TV.
Right, yeah.
Warm that teat is that,
that pee. Let the milking start. Let the milking begin.
Yeah.
Bobcats, right, Bobcats. We're going to take the ball.
No, all right, you need to get out of the way.
Yeah, please move.
We're going to pull this.
Please put on a hard hat and get into a safe zone. Like,
All right, guys. John. Okay, Jim, let's look it up.
this is so corny.
As these fellows are hooking the chains up to the Bobcat, we're going to take...
Do not touch the
Federal.
machine. Get off the machine
Yeah.
now.
Federal de Piazza.
That wall's coming down. Okay, guys, let's do it.
Like he's coaching them
We
all.
literally looked at each other like, I'm gonna act like this at our games next week.
About to come down. But before we do that, let me give you
He's gonna hurt himself. I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
think we may have in here. Take a look.
It begins with Tim Samuelson, an architectural expert with Chicago's Historical Landmark Society. Tim helped us explore the Lexington.
Explore.
Confirmed that the vault, as well as the soil sample taken from a section of it.
I'm gonna look up the history of the Lexington Hotel.
Still, there were many unanswered questions.
Many unanswered questions.
Well, so in these old buildings, you see similar things. You just got to dig through and interpret the different layers. It's just all.
Said the building was demolished in '95.
Oh, okay. Well, then.
January, we began sorting it out. Carefully probing
I mean, it looks like it's on this last leg now,
how
anyways.
thick and formidable it would be. In February, experts used a heat-sensitive infrared monitor.
And just also, it says the hotel is notable for being Al Capone's primary residence from July 1928 until his arrest in 1931.
Were solid concrete.
After the St. Valentine's Day massacre, some commenters called the hotel, quote, Capone's castle.
Oil exploration was used to bounce sound waves into the vault. But once again, the results indicated that much of the vault was solid. This disappointing evidence forced us to launch an exploration of selected parts of the vault. We had to know what we were up against. We encountered
What they're up against. You're there just
Yeah.
to, like, film it.
The task of removing the dirt and backfill proved to be
Imagine
Once
all
again,
this-
he's a coach. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Imagine all this work for nothing, you know?
yeah.
As our exploration progressed, cutting equipment became necessary. What we'd hoped would be a simple and revealing survey had grown into a monumental task. It was a task worth performing. After countless hours
For ratings potential.
Yeah.
promising vault within a vault. It was a sealed, self-contained, 30-foot
If we had to, we would use white phosphorus. Like,
So our excitement mounted. Come with me a second. Let me show you what I was
well,
Well, I guess I have to.
yeah, I can't do anything. I'm sitting here.
125-foot long space.
Nearly 40 years later, like, you know, like.
Turned out to be solid. We thought it was hollow at first, but this is the section that turned out to be
Right.
packed solid. We've
Imagine how inconceivable it would have been even back then that something like this would then later rest on an online video player format that would be
Yeah.
podcast about. Like,
Right. And we'll be like, oh, look at this dumbass.
Look at this
like,
idiot.
Yeah, like,
This bozo.
this space.
rip bozo L. Take the L, bozo.
But remember, this was the part of the vaulted space that turned out to be packed solid. But over here, this is what I was describing as the chamber within a chamber, the vault within a vault, the section that our sonic and seismic tests indicated was probably hollow. Now this brick, for instance, has no structural reason for existing. It is here, it seems, for one reason and one reason only, and that's to seal this.
If I was watching all this, like back in the day, I would have been like, I want to just hear more about Al Capone and the history of that. I
Right.
don't care about all this
Well, they're gonna, I think, do that a little
because
bit.
he's in a very fancy way saying this is how we're gonna bust the wall down and get open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we get it.
Between the years 1927 and 1932, that's when he went away to prison. When we dug out this solidly packed area of the vault,
Well,
we
Wikipedia
found
said 31.
like this one.
He don't know.
Well, also he said 27 and it says 28 here, but
We don't know. Also, that period
There's a lot of things he doesn't know, it seems like. So
golden era. That was at
golden
the time when
era.
illicit
Has he got an earring on his left ear?
gambling and
well, he is Geraldo.
netting
Yeah, I think so.
$100 million every year. Remember, he didn't pay taxes, so Capone had a lot of money to hide.
Don't remember he didn't do that. It's like, well,
Yeah,
I
that's
do.
kind
know-
of how he went to jail.
Well, I do know that, but there's a lot of people that may not have. But all you're talking about is the vault of a person that theoretically I don't know who they are.
We believe we could cash in for $20 million. This is back at the toys room. $20 million.
So I searched Geraldo Rivera earring.
Should this be our
And-
pick for the
yeah.
episode? I think.
It's gonna be one of them. Yeah. There's a picture that says Geraldo Rivera strips Avengers Age of Ultron. MSNBC host wears tampon earrings.
What?
I don't even know.
Remember, when Capone finally went to prison, he didn't go to jail for any of the approximate.
And then several other posts. This one here says Geraldo Rivera apologizes for allegedly groping Bette Midler, but recalls incident quote differently. So yeah. Anyways.
There is something great and there's something huge and something of value.
Yeah.
And who is
yeah.
this?
Soon up, Dennis Ansoni, special agent in charge of the IRS here. Dennis, I understand that your office has placed a lien against anything of value that we might find.
Right. We have a judgment for taxes that Capone owed in the late 20s and early 30s.
This would have been right after tax day too, April 15th.
Yeah.
Around $800,000.
That's what's funny is it's like that years later there'd have to be somebody to come out and be like, all right, we got to look at whatever this is. Like,
Because he just said that Capone,
Yeah.
I think, still had an outstanding debt of $800,000 with the IRS. So, so it's like, is he there to collect the check or collect the bill?
Yeah.
Like you said.
From the old booze days, possibly trucks, maybe some old cars.
Okay, but the first $800,000 worth goes to the government.
Right.
Uncle Sam. Right. Okay, thanks, Sam.
Well,
Okay, over here, it looks
Anyway, I'm gonna go over here now.
$8,000 of debris.
it's vaulted area. It's now ready to come down.
Yeah, they could get $800,000 worth of brick.
Our tests indicate that this
Wonder how annoyed they were with him just being there shouting and yelling the whole time. Well,
Don't expect to see gold bars right out front. It's probably not going to work that way.
Yeah, well,
Probably the first obstacle we're going to encounter. Okay. Now, John, you guys ready? Everybody's ready? You said, Jimmy? Okay. Okay, Rich. Okay,
he's like, oh, and I know their names. Like,
I know their first names.
yeah, it's probably because they've been screaming at him all week. Like, get the hell out of the way.
Let's go. Live from Chicago.
Yeah, let's go. Did he start LFG?
okay, it's about like we figured. They're still in the beginning areas. It's got,
LFG leave.
I'm like, he's not following OSHA guidelines. He does not have a hard hat on.
Yeah.
Who the hell does he think he is getting right up there?
Like LFG leave forever, Geraldo. Like, I don't know.
He already said, he just said, start digging. Come on, guys. Like,
It's gonna be like Jeff Probst, yeah, the whole time. Like,
so Jeff Probst would be the ideal candidate for the next version of whatever this would be. Like,
yeah.
you know.
Well, the greatest night in television
Well,
history, or
yeah.
greatest event in television
Yeah.
history, or whatever.
That had to be in some way a parody or homage to this.
Yeah.
Had to be.
stay tuned because one way or another, the secret is now being uncovered. Okay, let's go. Winston.
Yeah, it would be like Jeff Probst or Ryan Seacrest or.
We'll continue after these messages.
After these messages.
I think it's a Prohibition gin. It's Capone's dance up there. Now, before we totally enter what may have been Capone's private space, I think that this is an appropriate time. I hope you can hear me. For us to find out more about this guy. Scarface Al Capone didn't just control the Lexington Hotel.
So he did actually find something. Like,
Yeah.
American underworld, and in a perverted, bizarre kind of way, I guess you could say his was a success story.
The story of America's most notorious gangster began with the wave of Italian immigrants who flooded into New York City before the turn of the century. Among that overwhelmingly honest and hard-working group were Gabriel and Teresa Capone, two
Capone.
refugees from the slums of Naples. The family settled amid the poverty of Brooklyn with hopes for a
Yeah, famously Capone like started off in New York, but then moved to Chicago.
was christened Alphonse Capone. He was the bad seed. By the time he was 18,
the bad
We've
seed.
still yet to see that Tom Hardy movie.
Yeah.
barroom night.
Came out a few years ago. That sounded so
It
weird.
looked awful too.
Yeah, well, it got some decent reviews, and then some people said it was bad, so
As Al Capone.
I'm not seeing so.
In the fall of
Originally it was gonna be Fonzo,
Yeah.
and then it was like Capone. Like, we're not even gonna fool around that. Like,
a New York gang leader, who was Capone's close friend and teacher.
it's funny because all this stuff was like Boardwalk Empire stuff
Yeah.
we already know. But
Johnny Torrio felt
He don't really look a lot like the guy that
No.
played him. It was really good, I think. In
New York Al Capone was only too happy to make
Boardwalk Empire, yeah, the
Yeah.
guy that was on The Sopranos.
Yeah.
business with his uncle, a fun-loving, high-living mobster called Big Jim Colosimo.
And he's the guy that gets killed in the
Fun
first
loving-
episode of
Nights
that.
patronized
Literally one of the most violent deaths in anything
Yeah.
ever.
you know, Scorsese had to do it to him.
Yeah.
controlled most of Chicago's prostitution and vice.
It's actually probably the most violent death in that Scorsese's ever filmed,
It's up
actually.
there.
I think, maybe.
That or Pesci in Casino.
Yeah.
Also, you can talk about multiple deaths in Casino, but also even the guys heading to effing Vice.
Yeah, but it doesn't really show that as much as you
Yeah.
would think it does, but
F me, you
F my mother.
We might have mentioned this on that pod when we did it a long time ago, but that famously he had to trim some things for that movie not to
Yeah.
get a rougher rating, and he invited Spike Lee to see the worst version of that scene. Apparently, they were dying laughing watching it. Like,
Yeah.
became illegal, and the nation went dry. Ironically, it was Al Capone's 21st birthday.
really was one of the dumber ideas in American history. You know, probably.
Wait,
I mean,
really? Did you hear that? It was his 21st birthday on the day that it, like,
Really?
supposedly when Prohibition started. Wow. On January 17th of, I guess, that's finally when the law went into effect
It
in
would have
Chicago.
been, yeah, if you do the math.
Yeah.
Actually, it would have
Yeah.
been. Wow.
Powerful lobbying groups in the country at that time.
Who said God doesn't have a sense of humor?
Yeah. Me, but
International organizations
as a lover of God, I don't think he really thinks things are that funny.
just a year ago, liquor stores were still illegal. I came here
Where is he now?
to visit Martha Egger, the current president of the WCTU, to ask her about a historical irony. Quote, the American people had expected to be greeted when the great day came by a covey of angels bearing gifts of peace.
Again, I mean, I of course abstain from alcohol.
Yes.
I don't drink it, but just the idea that you think you can legislate that was just
Well,
so
also,
dumb.
you're just losing a lot of money.
Yeah.
As someone who doesn't care about the economy, that is an economic blow that is just not good. Like,
The 18th Amendment, those years between 19...
and I doubt that was a major, you know, effect of why the Great Depression happened. But I wonder what amount of that would have even marginally been an effect of Prohibition. Like, you know, as far as all the illegal.
Well, also, like the thing about temperance movement was that was very tied up with women's rights during that time, and so that was actually like all the, you know, all the protests women had did to enact their own political enfranchisement with the vote also was tied up in temperance. I mean, those two things were not exactly totally overlapped, but to an extent did.
A Hollywood movie starring Rod Steiger as Al Capone presented a fanciful version of Colosimo's murder.
A fanciful version.
It does have that thing about the music.
Yeah.
In the
very 1920, yeah. Rod Steiger was Al Capone. I didn't even never know
I've
that.
never heard that either.
Yeah, that's not as bad.
Opera, Levi's favorite music.
Yeah, but if y'all never have seen that moment in Boardwalk Empire, go eat dinner and then watch it.
Colosimo was killed by an anonymous bullet fired through the window of his club. The king of Chicago's vice would be buried in grand style.
That does look like it. Well, most of this was gonna be like Boardwalk Empire, Boardwalk Empire. This, Boardwalk Empire.
His murderer was never found, but the principal suspect was Al Capone. After a grand gangland funeral attended by all.
Gangland funeral. That's always one of my favorite terms. Gangland slaying, like.
Well, gangland sounds like a really rickety amusement park. Anyways, I've always thought.
And then
like,
slaying.
Let's go to gangland for the weekend.
When he was quote slain unquote.
In many ways, the death of Jim Colosimo marked the birth of modern organized
That'd be a good amusement park, gangland. You know, like
with quote gangbusters unquote
gangsta themed
unquote.
I've always thought the phrase gangsta rap is always like gangsta grass, but.
With me now is Patrick Healy.
I remember a friend Ethan and I when we went to go see, because I remember me and you went to see it, and then he just happened to come in, saw Straight Outta Compton. We were laughing about there was like a old news video or whatever they put in, and it was like gangster rap is like this real like uppity white guy you could do like,
rap.
Gangster rap is sweeping the nation.
Probably had some
like,
Tom Brokaw moment.
yeah,
of him
basically,
saying
yeah.
And therefore he made those come under his control.
Gangster rap is.
Gangster rap is attacking America. Like I don't know. There was one time I did the best impression of him, and
Yeah, I did the same with Stallone.
Tell me about that. Tell me how he organized.
Man, when I was in my my early 20s, I could do the best impression of Tom Brokaw. I'll tell you, like, yeah.
One time before he came here, or slightly after he came here, we had pockets of gangs, and they each had
Tom Brokaw's
sections
still
of
alive.
town.
Yeah.
Well, they were working at odds with
How
each
old
other.
is he?
And if you're really going to take over
He's probably in his 80s now.
and did it to a high degree of proficiency.
He's 83.
Yeah.
We estimated from
I figured he was relatively younger than I would think.
What state, if you had to guess, where's he from?
It seems a fabulous amount. How does that compare with
Probably like,
Today's standards, nickels and dimes.
hmm.
Today's standards, organized crime is estimated to bring in $100
Connecticut.
South Dakota.
a year.
Oh, okay.
President's Commission on
His voice always
Organized
sounded kind of northern to me, but
$1 billion and
Well, that's in the north. But I know what you
Yes.
mean.
jobs a year.
Oh my goodness, that looks like
That's
a thousand
big
times more than Capone. Okay, Patrick, thank you for coming.
An irony is too. I don't know if it's an irony or if it's semi-connected, but that it was in the mid to late '80s when RICO was starting to be used more widely to put a lot of traditional organized crime figures in jail.
yeah.
Another commercial break, but when we come back, you'll get acquainted with an indispensable tool of the 1920s, the Tommy gun, after these commercial messages.
Yeah, it's funny though. There's he actually did find something.
He found these little bottles.
Like I'm sorry, I'm being literal, but like, well, I think the point is like it was literally right behind the wall.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
and that could have literally been anyone.
30 million viewers turned
Right.
in to see him find 2 bottles. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're aiming at than this one, the Thompson submachine gun.
Anyway,
Civilians call it the Tommy gun.
Civilians.
The mob called it the typewriter. And as you know, with it, they wrote a bloody tale of terror.
oh my God.
In the West,
A bloody tale of terror.
that made the 20s roar. With me now are two experts.
Make that a Twitter pic of him holding that.
Come on in, guys. Here's Sherman Carnoff and Bill Dambrot.
Oh yeah,
this
you know
guy.
there's some gun guys. Yeah, look at them. Like they look like those guys, like the rednecks in Dawn of the Dead. Like
I mean, they're literally wearing camo. One's
Yeah.
wearing camo and orange. Like,
it's so cold there. You can tell he's like
Yeah.
breathing smoke. Like
It was impossible to fire at many troops at one time. So the gun was actually developed.
Chicago. Chicago.
who said that? Well, we're thinking of Chicago. Somebody said Chicago.
Oh, some Chicagoan, I guess.
Yeah, but I can't remember what it was. But
Oh, and explosives.
oh yeah,
So this guy, like,
that guy lives and breathes death.
yeah,
Shot most modern weapons. I haven't
like,
used this one yet.
like, was this guy a missing? Like, look, he's got the clip in his belt or on
Yeah,
like,
the drum magazine.
Yeah. Well, he might just be holding it with his hand, but it looks like it's like
Yeah, it looks
stuffed in
like
his
stuff
shirt.
in his
Like,
belt, Now
they're
Geraldo
not
has fired
actually going to
most-
shoot
yeah,
this thing. Like, are you
Geraldo
serious?
has fired most modern firearms.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
Did he just say
He
that?
said that earlier. Yeah.
It's exactly the same gun used in St. John House.
Exactly.
This is the gun.
This is
like,
the gun.
Any special instructions?
Just lean into
don't point it at me. Yeah.
Safety's coming off.
Safety's off.
Weapons hot.
Oh my God.
Weapons hot.
He's not even really holding the.
Geraldo did pretty well. It's not kicking too bad on his.
Yeah.
his
Unless they
shoulder.
cut away and.
But even before, it didn't look like.
He's probably a gun nut if he's acting like, oh, I've shot a lot of guns. Like,
Why? What's the reason?
The reason they took the stock off was so that they could go out the window of a car, and it would be convenient. That way, it wouldn't get in their way.
I see. Now, one
I
point
see.
I want to make very clearly right now. This is live ammunition. It's not like the cop shows you see on TV.
This is
It's not like
real.
the police dramas where they use
The
swords
police
or
dramas.
knives. This is the real stuff. 45 caliber, hot.
Hill Street Blues on during this time, I think.
yeah.
I've always heard that. So I said it's one of the best cop shows ever.
One of these days we'll get back to Miami Vice.
Yeah, we really liked what we've saw of that so far. Yeah, Hill Street Blues was on from 81 to 87 on NBC.
Love they set up like a whole little like what did you see that? He like started walking towards it like. But they set up a little like backroom game kind of scenario to shoot at, you know, like.
Yeah.
Lexington Hotel lies Cicero. In 1923, the year the Chicago Crime Commission named Al Capone public enemy number 1, Cicero was a quiet middle-class suburb, but that didn't last for long. 1923 was also the year Chicago got a new mayor. Big Bill Thompson was finally replaced by a law and order reformer, a man named William Deaver. Deaver appointed as chief of police an incorruptible lawman, Morgan Collins by name. When Capone offered him $100,000 a month not to interfere with his Chicago...
$100,000 a month?
That's massive money back then.
Gambling dens and breweries, and by arresting scores of his men. Confronted for the first time...
That's crazy.
I want to do an inflation calculator on that. It's 23, I think, right?
Yeah. It's 100 years ago.
From here, Capone ran his Chicago operations. He also converted Cicero from a once peaceful community into a center of vice and violence. It wasn't long before Cicero could boast 150 gambling establishments, most of them featuring slot machines.
That's 1.8 million now.
Oh, wow.
Saloons and speakeasies, and a string of brothels stretching from one end of town to the other. The cost, in case you're interested, was $2.
In case you're interested.
Fraction thereof. It may not sound like a lot of money, but it was enough to earn Capone an estimated $10 million.
Capone.
Cicero's mayor, a corrupt mobster puppet named Joseph.
Let's just defame him, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Look at how big his hat is on his head. Look at all these movies they've got here. They're like, oh, look at this. Like, what's funny is this was right before The Untouchables was made, too.
Right.
So.
Cicero, Al Capone was the undisputed boss of bosses. No one dared oppose him, except one man. One man who dared to be a thorn in his side. He was a newspaper editor. Actually, the youngest in the country at the time, just 21 years old.
That looks like a creepy rat or something.
Unrelenting war of words against Al Capone and the corrupt Cicero city government. That newspaper editor is now the distinguished author and journalist.
Oh, wow, so that guy's still alive.
You exposed one of Capone's brothels in a quite unique way.
Oh, his hair.
Was where all my trouble began.
You remember there's that whole scene in Boardwalk Empire where the whole Capone, all the Capone brothers go and get the some journalist to make sure he spells his name right or whatever.
Yeah.
Gave the girl a $5 bill, which was always paid in advance. And then I said, now, sister, we're going to have a little talk. Here's $10 extra for just talking. Anyway, all night long, I was passed along from one girl to another. When my $10 bills were all gone, one of the girls came rushing in and said, my God, Ralph is at the bottom of the staircase.
Ralph Capone.
Ralph Capone.
Al's brother.
Al's brother.
His enforcer.
Let me talk.
Let me talk. I know all the things, please.
Jump out the window onto a lean-to and get away, which I did.
To tell us more about his Cicero adventures, Robert...
That could, all of that could literally be made up.
Yeah,
for
so
all
I
I
was
know.
just thinking,
Like,
we
yeah.
don't,
One morning, as I was on my
That guy could have lied about that his whole life, and then at this
Yeah.
point, just being so old, don't even know it's a lie
Yeah.
anymore.
there was one cop standing in this corner right here.
So we got a reenactment going on of
Yeah.
sorts.
Corner over there.
Why? Like,
Where that vacant lot is.
Wearing this red beret.
Across the street
Yeah.
like this, I got right to the center here, right to the middle, when I heard this creaks of brakes, and I looked up, and in that direction was a black 7-passenger black touring car. This is the type of car that both the private detectives...
anyway, there's traffic that needs to
Yeah,
get through
you need
here.
to please move to the sidewalk. We have traffic that's happening. Something of note and value.
I knew which it was because I recognized the first man that came out as Ralph Capone. So I knew I was in for it. So I
What a family of lookers that was.
Yeah, a bunch of ugly looking people.
went on the ground with my head buried because I didn't want to get it in the head. As I lay there in the middle of the intersection with the cops on the two corners, they worked over me with blackjacks.
Didn't you say there were 2 policemen on either corner?
2 policemen
No, he didn't say that. He just said it like 5 times.
lifted a finger to stop what had happened or to chase the gang.
I guess that's more symptomatic than anything of what Cicero was really like.
That is absolutely correct. That was Cicero. As soon as I got out of the hospital, I came right here to the Cicero Police Department, chief of police was Ted Spicoli, a good friend of mine. I said, Ted, I want 4 warrants.
Ted Spicoli? No.
Battery, kidnapping, and so forth. I want warrants for
Other 80s icon.
Capone, Act, and 2 John Doe warrants. He put his arm around my shoulder and said, kid, you're too young to die. Forget it. I said, no, Ted, I want those warrants. He said, come back at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. At 9 o'clock the next morning, I came back. He said, go up to my office up on the 2nd floor. He said, I'll be right up. I went upstairs. I was looking out the window, and I heard the door close. I turned around, and there stood a man, big, stocky fellow.
The man of the hour.
And the man was Bill O'Reilly. Like,
we didn't really mention Bill O'Reilly earlier. Rivera used to be on there quite a bit.
Yeah.
He said, I'm sorry, kid. I'm sorry it happened. The boys were drunk. They know better than that. Well, he pulled out of his pocket the biggest roll of bills I've ever seen. They weren't 5s and 10s like mine. They were 100s. And he started peeling them off. He said, you lost your hat. Your hospital bill is paid. And he's peeling off these $100 bills.
You take the money?
There were times later that I almost wished I had. I've had rough times in my life.
So 60 years, 6 decades later, how does it feel being back in Sicily?
so what's the end of that story? Like,
Yeah.
what did he do? Like,
Implication is he didn't, but
yeah. No, I'm saying, what did Al Capone
Yeah.
do when he didn't take
Right.
it? Like,
I feel 25 again, which was what I was.
well, I am 25 and you're not. So,
The Capones are all buried deep in the ground. But St. John, who lost his first big war against the gangsters of Cicero, St. John is still alive.
well, not now, but yeah.
yeah.
He's pretty good. He's in pretty good shape for an 85-year-old guy back then.
The Adams Express Company, talking about 6 decades ago, has just checked into our excavation process. We've hit an obstacle back there, but don't worry, we have some drastic remedies to take care of it. Stay tuned.
White phosphorus. Like,
Cocaine.
yeah.
History of Al Capone's vaults.
Which reminds me of that thing I sent in our group chat yesterday from that Chinatown book. Said, described by Bruckheimer as someone who likes to be the center of attention, Simpson didn't believe in the auteur theory. He believed in cocaine.
Makes me think of the first words of The Godfather. I believe in America.
Yeah, I believe in cocaine.
William Stonebrook's flower shop was partly owned by a deceptively good-natured Irishman named Dion O'Banion. Deanie to his friends, who was
Remember his death
I've
in
always-
Boardwalk
yeah.
Empire? Oh my God!
I've always loved that last name, O'Banion.
Yeah, Dino Banyan. Like,
in this neighborhood perfecting
look, you want to? He gets lit up like a Christmas tree. I'll tell you what. Like,
O'Banion and his gang had become one of Al Capone's most deadly rivals. He and his boys controlled most of Chicago's north side.
I wish they'd talk about oh God, what's that guy's name? He was the Italian mobster in New York that was Luciano's boss.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, what was his name?
Anyway, I wish they'd talk about a guy like him. Is like, you gonna insult me? Oh wow, look at that.
Joe Masseria.
Yeah, Joe Masseria. Yeah,
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna
Almost
do?
like Chico Marx.
Yeah, well, I tell you what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
That guy was so deliciously over
yeah.
the top in Boardwalk
Yeah.
Empire, though.
He was in a random amount of it too. Like he was in it for a while. So
Naturally, they were adorned with tons of flowers. There were 10,000 mourners, including some of Chicago's most important politicians and high-ranking police officials. The bizarre spectacle marked the beginning of Capone's violent struggle to take control of this city.
doesn't really look anything like it.
Political machine.
Said he was played by an actor named Ivo Nandi.
Hmm.
I just wanted to give him a special shout out because he was really good.
The corrupt administration
What are you
layered
gonna
big
do?
bills
What are you gonna do?
And it wasn't long before Al Capone was well.
Al Capone.
Capone and Torrio began
Capone.
aggressively to expand their criminal empire. But they faced
Falcone, no.
Falcone. I mean Calzone.
Calzone.
Jaime Weiss. Oh my God. I think I've heard that name somewhere.
It's like, are these people mobsters or like baseball players from 100 years ago? Cause
what was the difference?
Yeah. You see how that like that casket was getting pushed in the camera the way it was, and the casket just like stopped before it hit the camera, and just was there for a few seconds.
When Jaime Weiss and the boys struck again, Mrs. Torrio had already gone into their apartment right here. Johnny Torrio was hanging out.
Mrs.
Oh,
Torrio.
that moment was depicted in the show too, when it was Torrio was
where
almost
they
killed.
blasted through the window. You know about? Yeah.
Once in the jaw, once in the chest, another time in the groin. Torrio fell right about
Broken wrist.
to administer the coup de grace.
To administer
Ran
the
out
coup
of
de
bullets.
grace.
He found it prudent at that point to retire. But before he left, he signed over his share of the brothel, the gambling establishment, and the speakeasy.
Administer the coup de grace. I don't remember that for a while.
A criminal empire worth tens of millions of dollars. He was just 26 years old. Cicero had become a rich prophet.
Anyway,
you can tell they like. No,
Yeah.
this is something more important going on right now. Please back away. Heavy machinery is being used. There was a guy that looked at him for a second. And there was like, get away.
Al Capone's success in avoiding arrest and prosecution lay in large part. Let's keep backing up. They want on his ability to bribe.
I actually can hear you.
The cop, but finally in 1928, the U.S. Treasury Department assigned a 26-year-old incorruptible special agent one task and one task alone, and that was getting Capone.
I wonder who that was. Oh, Robert Stack was on The Untouchables? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds stupid, but I didn't know that.
We love Robert Stack.
Yeah.
Most of them mostly think of him in Airplane or but also oh gosh, what was
There's
the
that
Fuller
movie,
Bamboo, what was it?
House of Bamboo. Was he in that?
Yeah, he was like, it was like, ain't he the good guy? And then
oh yeah, and then Robert Ryan.
Ryan's the
Yeah,
bad
right. Yeah, yeah.
And he's also really good in
Imitation of Light. No, that that one movie.
Written in the Wind, or no.
Wind in the Willows. Willow the Wisp. Douglas Sirk movie is what it is.
certain time, and we'd be there. They'd break up a couple of barrels for us just to show that they were on the job. And
Let me ask you this: who'd you like better, Elliot Ness or Al Capone?
Al Capone. Because I knew what Al Capone was. Elliot Ness, he was just a publicity hound in my book. He was
Written on the Wind,
a messenger boy.
What?
I get a great kick up when I see those Untouchables.
I know I remember our grandmother Sandra Bowman. Every once in a while, I heard her talk about that show as one she used to like growing up.
Yeah, it seems kind of interesting, but
yeah,
it's probably better than the
and
movie.
she also famously
we'll talk about that next week. Yeah,
but we'll give you a preview here of her when Sean Connery gets all shot up, yelling,
"Yeah,
Capone got him!" Like,
yeah. The best part of that was Sean Connery going, "Ooh, ah!"
That's how much I like Al Capone.
Okay, well that guy just outed himself as a
scumbag,
an accessory after the fact, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't go away. The fun is just beginning. Welcome back to the basement of the Lexington Hotel. I'll give you a hint about what's going on there. Those fellows are...
Give us a hint.
More about that in a second. First, I want to give you a little bit more history. Even though drinking was theoretically outlawed during Prohibition, that didn't stop millions of Americans from indulging...
Really? I didn't know
Are
that.
you sure? But it's illegal, though. They wouldn't do that.
Just 6 months after Prohibition began, a brand new American institution was born, the speakeasy.
Were you aware of that?
I heard.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Flappers or Billy Sunday. I don't know about any of that stuff. But how did I just mention it? The KKK. Who the hell was that?
Tracy Walters in a bad effing way.
Yeah. Now, I know that the Cotton Club had him in it. Oh, God. Callaway, oh, my Lord. Don't even get me started.
Scarface Al did it.
Yeah. But I know that Only Madden was in the Cotton Club, but I feel like we really need an Only Madden movie or something like.
Mm-hmm.
Joe E. Lewis, not Joe Lewis.
I feel like Dempsey Travis, like his name should be Travis Dempsey, but
it's like I'm real confused because then it's like showing a white guy named Joe E. Lewis, and then it cuts to Dempsey Travis, like, and then I'm like, wait, Jack Dempsey? What? I don't know. Yeah. A lot of question marks.
Like I said, his last name should be his first name, and his first name should be his last name.
Wait, what? What are you talking about?
His face.
He's like, Interesting.
I'll file this away in case I'm ever on the 5. A show yet to exist.
Yeah. What if he was just bored on that at some point and just pulled out some old note cards that he left in the same jacket
for like coffee
40 years, and he's like, anyway, when I talked to Dempsey Travis, it's like.
Okay, guys. As you can see, we have encountered a very substantial obstacle. It's a limestone wall.
It's almost like we should have done all this ahead of time. It's just like how the Huffmans should have watched this ahead of time.
Well, I mean, we're doing better than him. I feel like
well, we're
not going to get 30 million listeners on this.
We're competent broadcasters, like we're not live streaming this, like. Yeah, anyway, Jerry. Oh, he couldn't remember Jerry's name, though. Oh, wait, they got the explosive experts there. Yeah. Look, because I was going to say a minute ago, I was like, oh, he's wearing the same stuff as that guy from earlier, and it's literally
he opens his closet, and he's got, like, 6 of those just hung up, and he's like, all right, I'm going to wear this one today.
Like, where does he go hunting at? Like, Cicero? What does he do? Like, like...
Rural Illinois, yeah.
What's the chances that the explosion will take the whole building down?
Well, the problem is here that the wall that we're working on happens to be beyond the foundation of the building. It's actually under the sidewalk near the street area.
So if somebody's walking, then they would die.
Well, yeah.
Okay, now, what is that putty?
They're on par with Oppenheimer and Manhattan Project. Like, well, we don't think it's going to destroy the world, but
it might destroy this one.
The chances are near zero.
What do you want from Theory alone? Like, have you any leads of your own?
Like, Oppenheimer just today or yesterday passed Bohemian Rhapsody as the highest grossing biopic of all time.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You can back up, right?
What if that whole place just collapsed on live TV,
like a high rise in Vegas or something like?
This guy's hair looks like a
I was hoping for 2 seconds.
Piece.
I was hoping for 2 seconds he was going to say. So it blew up, and
Geraldo's dead,
and we're going to continue from here with the excavation process.
As is his.
Look at that! Look at that face on that mannequin. This is at the Hyatt Regency in Chicago. I guess is right near there. Well, they got people dressed up.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell?
Cosplay.
Oh my gosh!
This whole endeavor is one of the most embarrassing things ever.
Look at the hat back there on the stove. Look at that guy behind him. I hope to God y'all are watching this with us and not just listening, because wow,
you're missing out.
As you can see, he's really into collecting things regarding regarding Al Capone.
And he's like 15. How old is he? Like,
He's gonna
that
graduate
guy
from
back
junior
there-
college
that
next
guy back
week.
there looks like he's from like the 2000s or something. Like a
Yeah.
guy in like a boxing studio in the 2000s or something like.
This guy is the IRS
Did he
guy.
just say paraphernalia?
Paraphernalia.
Now, I don't think you'll find any money in there.
We will find something in there of some significance.
There may be a body or two or some evidence of something.
Maybe a body or two.
Was Jimmy Hoffa in there? Like,
I guess they're just asking random Chicagoans what they're gonna find.
Sample opinions from people not only here in Chicago but all across the country. I thought very quickly we'd take a random survey here. You're dressed a la the Capone era, the 21st.
A la.
Gosh, I don't know. Time will tell. Take a guess. Gosh, I don't know. How about you, sir? Well, I probably.
he's like, all right, well, I gave up on you.
Big bone. I think the Esther, what do you think? Cash, definitely. Cash. What do you think?
Tickets to Hawaii.
Tickets to Hawaii. All right. A sample of opinion of what people think. One more. How about you, sir? What do you think? Prohibition era stuff. Prohibition. And you, sir?
Prohibition era stuff.
Wow.
Is literally what he just said.
I think a lot of money. So let's go back now. We will
It
be.
looks
Well,
like
that guy
a goon.
just said cash a second ago.
Yeah.
By the way, don't you know the obvious answer to all this, which is that okay, when he got arrested, they probably went down in there and got this whatever he had
Yeah,
out,
right.
and somebody took it with them, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Like,
Or that even at that time, the knowledge of that was a red herring for another place that would have actually had more things.
Right.
Like,
how far back?
also,
they are.
like the way mobsters.
Oh,
work,
now he puts his. He's following the OSHA guidelines now.
like
He's got the helmet on.
the mobsters, like they don't have this one big Uncle Scrooge McDuck vault where they keep
Yeah.
all their money. They have like bags of it stashed in various
It's
places. That way,
probably
if they got to run, they can grab it
In
and
their
leave it.
like false bottom closet. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, is he gonna get to press it?
I feel like the explosion expert should do it.
This is a Capone era plunger. We thought it would be appropriate to use.
This is so 80s.
Yeah, it's like
No bad. No.
We thought it would be
publicity.
appropriate.
All publicity is good publicity.
yeah, it's
you know?
like we thought it would be appropriate to use an outdated plunger for this explosion that may or may not topple the building.
It might kill us all. Man, what a live broadcast that would be.
Classic phrase. Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole!
So Geraldo.
Oh, and he's got the microphone on the plunger.
Like it's gonna make some big magic sound.
I think it worked. What happens now, Joe?
More if they got Tom Savini to come in and do that. And he's like, "What? No blood?" They're like, "No." Like,
Okay, so when you
anyway, stay over here and don't move.
we begin sorting through all this.
Don't go away. Don't go away.
I just really can't get over the fact they held the microphone up to the plunger.
Yeah.
Like.
We're digging in. We're getting there. We'll find out. Being solved one way or the other. Now, remember,
Right, we're 50 minutes in.
Yeah.
we're coming to you live from Chicago.
What? Now daytime B-roll?
Yeah.
Like.
Chicago is a city rich in familiar landmarks. The Water Tower, Wrigley Field, the Loop.
This sewer.
Deep in the bowels of this city, there's another one.
You know what? They like showed all the landmarks of the city. Then they just went to the firearms explosion expert's house and they just showed it off at his basement.
His closet of all of his clothes.
Is that a swastika I see in the corner? Oh no! Don't mind me.
Is that an antique Nazi plate?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. A la American Beauty,
That's
which
what I
is
was
yet to
thinking.
be made.
A la.
Like, yeah.
I was just thinking all out.
Where the hell is this?
This
Was
is
he gonna
another
walk
secret
looks like he's gonna
passageway.
walk the plank here. wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Okay, we reached our goal. As you can see, it's
We've reached our star goal, our star test goal.
an incredible underground
Just
waterway
kidding.
that crisscrosses the entire downtown Chicago area. Come with me now on a tour of the subterranean maze.
Come with me now on a tour of this subterranean maze.
And then they like turns a corner and it's M-A-I-Z-E.
And
It's just a bunch of corn.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was literally about to say that.
Its original purpose was part of an underground telephone system, but over the years it
found other uses, some legitimate, apparently some not.
God
The
almighty.
first change was the installation of railroad
How do we get here? What's going on?
He's just showing, a secret area of Chicago. Like,
train system. The electric trains were used to deliver freight and coal to build each
Man, now I'm hearing his voice echoing like I wanted to hear it twice. You
Yeah.
know?
Yes, surround sound.
delivery, a great way to beat the tough Chicago winter. But check it out. This system goes forever. So what do these
Yeah, literally forever.
Well, these are just theories, but think about them. I think they hold water. Back during Prohibition, wouldn't this tunnel system have been an ideal place to store huge quantities?
So we don't
Wouldn't it
know,
be- it's
but
like, but wouldn't it have like?
but I think it holds water. But I don't really know. I'm just speculating.
I guess this is where Jack the Night Stalker did battle with Richard Keel in that one episode,
Yeah.
which is because that show's in Chicago, but it's clearly always shot in L.A. when they do exteriors. But whatever.
Yeah.
No wonder poor Elliot Ness could never catch Scarface Al at home. If these rumors are correct, as soon as the alarm bell went off, Scarface Al would simply disappear underground.
Scarface Al.
Dad worked for Al Capone for many years, and during that time he.
Oh, that's the guy, the son. Okay, yeah.
Down here in the tunnels that ran to various sporting houses and gambling houses in the area.
Sporting houses.
Vern Wally.
Former Chicago Report.
Or Whaley.
Wait a second. Former Chicago Report.
I think it was
He was a
reporter.
report.
I think it was when I said reporter.
But it's saying he at one time he was a report. Like
He was a walking report.
he was a piece of paper. Well, that's why he's so boring. Like,
He's as white as one.
Frustrating, and it was in vain. And finally, the
And this will not be in vain.
discover a clue.
That earring.
Make us want to go and explore further. Check it out.
Oh no, it's not an earring. It's an earpiece. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's what it is.
But in light of the urban archaeology we'd already performed at the hotel and around the neighborhood, we weren't surprised. We'd become accustomed to the time-consuming process of breaking up tons of old brick and concrete, of gradually peeling back layers of history. Well, after
So,
hours of digging, we began to get a sense of the
in that
horror
show,
of
The Kingdom, there's the Lars von Trier show about the hospital. In the second season, there's this whole subplot about the fact that there's this like report about a malfeasance, or what do you call it? Like not malfeasance, malpractice. Basically, a character committed malpractice, and there's the report they're trying to get a hold of and destroy, and they're like, somebody's got it, and they're trying to hide it to blackmail them, and they're like, oh, I'll put it in this one report in the archives because it's literally the most boring report ever.
Mm-hmm.
No one would ever look there. And then they're like, oh, I bet they'll put it there. No one would ever look there. And they find it's
Yeah.
like, you know, but anyway, that made me think of that, about a boring report, you know.
northeast corner of the basement where about
And then they both get locked in the archives.
secret tunnel system.
But if they move, the alarm will go off, so they have to stand there like exactly the way they were for like 30 minutes until somebody walks by or something. Like,
Certainly big enough for Capone and his boys to use when they wanted to get out.
yeah, I gotta say,
in a real hurry.
that show, The Kingdom, I know we're, you know, Al Capone, but, you know,
Well, might as well talk about anything.
Bear
yeah.
with me. The Kingdom, what I like about that is it's like a Lars von Trier product, but it's actually genuinely really funny, I think. And it's like, oh, we can actually do some comedy. Like,
Mm-hmm. Is that his most recent thing he's done now?
the
I guess
TV show.
The TV
yeah,
show.
the third season, yeah.
Right.
Right, yeah.
When did the original one come out?
The 90s. Like the early 90s.
Has it got most of the cast members back? Or
No, it's mostly different. They've got a couple.
Okay.
But like I said, part of the whole point of that third season is to say there was a TV show about this hotel, or not hotel, this hospital.
Yeah.
And now, did those things really happen? Like, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple that were in it that are still in it, but not many.
Was a bartender here at the Lexington Hotel, incidentally, during Capone's era. He told us that whenever there was a raid, Capone would use a staircase. Wait, let me just.
I know this.
Staircase.
Yeah, but he's.
They're not seriously going to show the same thing again.
Capone used this staircase leading down from the second floor to go into a secret tunnel that led into the Walgreens drugstore just next
In
door.
Hudson, North Carolina.
That eyewitness testimony with the obvious brick and mortar construction and the care that someone and the expense someone has used, and the fact that it does go to the building that was the Walgreens department store, we can say that we've discovered one of Capone's secret tunnels.
Okay.
And I'm sure
Find any other bottles in there? Or?
Convert the Lexington Hotel into a kind of gangster museum after this program is over.
Gangsta museum.
The walls of this old
A gangsta museum.
I'm sure that they'd have a lot of secrets to tell us.
Meta.
You can tell he's wanting to look at the TV.
Oh, that is
himself.
definitely going to be a photo that I use
Aside from the fact that the place was absolutely freezing,
to promote this.
fascinating discoveries. I mean, at least myself.
At least I thought it was cool.
The Lexington Hotel was built in 1891.
It's crazy the setup they had to do. Oh, everything they had to rig for this.
Yeah.
So are they just going to keep showing that? Or okay. You know, it's like, I was going to say.
They should have clearly cut earlier, but...
Maybe he directed all this too, and they were like waiting on him.
Denny Directo, maybe.
I learned later the hotel had been slated for demolition.
The hotel had been slain. So it
The
was
Gangland
slated.
Massacre.
It was slated for demolition, but wasn't demolished until almost 10 years later.
The hotel was saved from destruction by the organization which now owns both the building and presumably whatever's found in
And the local Domino's franchise.
IRS takes a chair. That organization
And the local Godfather's Pizza franchise, along with the Sizzler Steakhouse
in the construction trade. Its director.
and the Radio Shack. I'm trying to think of all the oldest, like. Anyway.
And the Sears and Roebuck.
High level of poverty for women and children in the nation, and especially here in Chicago, being 90% of the...
Well, she said earlier we're definitely going to find something.
Next to the Smith & Wessons, which I frequently put into my own mouth. Like, what?
That in order for women, especially black women, to be able to support themselves...
Wait,
and their
what?
children,
Well, hang on a second. What is she talking about?
So we decided to pull together a program that would be a year's worth of pre-apprenticeship that would actually teach these women how to go out and make the kind of money that
What?
makes.
What are they talking
Look, we
about?
jumped over here pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah, like, she had her glasses upside down.
Family off the system. So we decided to do a year's pre-apprenticeship.
What is going on? Which, I mean, all power to them if they're doing some, like, thing like this, but it's just like, why are we talking about this?
Yeah.
Like,
We have the Lexington into a luxury hotel that will accommodate the new McCormick Place expansion, which is our big convention center. The International Women's Museum and Research Center will go in and...
I guess this is saying.
Oh, this is what they're gonna do? Okay.
At least in the 80s, that was the plan.
oh, that surely didn't happen.
Yeah.
Out this old hotel in search of Al Capone and the secrets that the
Where's the music
Soundtrack,
coming
I don't know.
from?
doorways, stairways, that kind of thing.
That kind of thing.
Why does all this look like the, like, Reservoir Dogs meetup place? You know, it's like, what? The morgue, like.
Yeah.
A hidden doorway.
I would assume it was hidden.
So this is ground zero. This was the big man's office, room 530 here.
The
at
big man.
Lexington Hotel. It was from right in here, sitting behind that great big mahogany desk with his back to the window overlooking Michigan.
Sitting with a great big mohawk on his head.
That would have been a real big twist for the Capone era.
Yeah.
If he's like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. Like,
But it's like one of those detachable punk mohawks,
Yeah.
like, because it clearly didn't have hair, so.
I remember those paintings being in his office in the
Yeah,
in
the show.
Boardwalk
Yeah,
Empire. Yeah,
right.
I remember being like, I was got a George Washington painting. Like,
because he thought he was a general, I
Yeah.
guess.
Outside his office, Capone had stationed his bodyguards, some of his other henchmen. While in the rooms on this floor and those above and below lived Capone's torpedoes, his lieutenants.
His
that just makes me
torpedoes.
think like somebody's like, oh man, I need to put in my henchman applications for today, and or on the other end, Capone's like, I need 6 new henchmen. Get on hiring
Yeah,
them. Like, do the interviews. Like,
I wonder who he got to do the interviews, like.
Nitty, of course.
Yeah, clearly. That don't even play. Like, you know who it was.
Was Frank Nitti depicted in Boardwalk Empire? I can't really remember.
I don't think he was. Not that I remember. Or if he was in like the third. Oh my God!
That guy looked like he had something up his butt.
Anyway, I think he was like. If anything, he was in the third or the last season, but the fifth season. But does it say?
It doesn't know. It doesn't say anything.
I didn't
about
think
it.
he was.
And he made news again just recently when he won the Gene Herschel Humanitarian Award.
Bob Hope's there. Bob Hope's looking for a war.
Nitti actually died via suicide. I know.
When?
In 43, which it says.
Was he going to go down for some crimes?
We'll talk about this next week. But Billy Drago plays a fictionalized version of Nitti in 1987 in Untouchables.
Yeah.
In the film, Nitti dies after being thrown off a Chicago courthouse roof by Ness during Al Capone's tax evasion trial in the early 1930s, well before his suicide in 1943. Stanley Tucci played him in Road to Perdition. I forgot that.
I read about headlines today in the paper this morning. Paper, of course I would. He goes to the phone, he dials a certain number. Hello?
Says,
Big Chief?
well,
This motion picture Leo. Buddy Rogers with me this week. He and his mother are here. Appearing 5 times a day.
Buddy Rogers.
Tomorrow night, dinner for them. I'll have them there. Here I'm invited to, Mother and I are invited to dinner with Al Capone. Over the phone like that. Is that right? He said,
is that right?
Is that right? Is that right, Mother? Right. That's right. That's right.
Picture Leo came out. Got in these cars. And we
Motion Picture Leo.
20 blocks. Or maybe 22nd block, maybe.
We don't know. We don't know anything on this show.
Could have been 5 feet. I don't know.
Could have been Acapulco. I'm not really sure.
They were all reading newspapers. They come out and look. Then they go back. They were henchmen. I didn't know it. We went to the elevator. We went to the 3rd or 4th floor. Motion picture Leo gets out. And walks
Motion picture
He's
Leo?
talking about himself, ain't he?
Motion picture Leo got Mrs. Rogers and Buddy.
No.
Okay. I thought he was talking about himself in the third person for a second there.
Motion picture Leo. Like,
if I Google that, it's going to be Leonardo
yeah,
DiCaprio.
right, yeah. Type in motion picture Leo Al Capone, maybe it'll come up.
He certainly was. He was charming with Mother. Couldn't have been nice. Not at all frightening to you? Not at all. He said, Mother Rogers, don't believe all these newspaper articles. I'm not a killer. I don't want to hurt anyone.
It literally goes to this. So it's like we have no idea what they're talking about. Like,
I said, sure, we just made a film. Please have him come by. I love
we don't know.
Please let me be a friend to all of you. But you thought of him almost as a co-celebrity, didn't you? That's right.
Buddy. His name, I think.
Okay, nothing really new and exciting to report yet. We're still digging. No new spectacular ponds yet. But stay with us when we come back.
What? We were looking, there's a Buddy Rogers, a wrestler. Oh yeah, I gotta hear about this. I've never heard about that before.
Or if they're like starting to get panic, like, do we have enough stuff in case something doesn't pan out? Like all these things they've shot to show.
Florida's unique real estate laws, Capone's attorneys were able to buy this secluded mansion without revealing who the real purchaser was. By the time they found out,
Can you imagine living in Florida with no air conditioning?
Oh.
The present donor of Palm Island House is Hank Morrison, an airlines pilot.
Yeah, that would have been awful.
I mean, because they go to Florida a little bit in Boardwalk Empire,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, no. And then they're in Cuba in the
Cuba.
last season.
How'd you react when you found out?
well, I kind of enjoyed it.
How so?
Well,
Well,
How so?
this all looks like it's like secret Watergate footage or something
Yeah.
from afar of like guys
These
talking.
men walking
Yeah.
in these like palatial
Yeah.
areas, like
Oh.
houseboats and all, you know, like do it.
Tell me about it. Right now.
Do it right now. I'll kill your ass right now.
That's Capone's MO. Usually.
Yeah.
He served almost 8 years, the last 6 years or so, in Al brain hemorrhage.
I guess.
Back in 47, he actually died back in the old master bedroom in the house.
That window right there.
Right there.
Where he breathes.
What is this, The Godfather, where it zooms in on the window?
Where he blew his last bubble.
Masturbated. Masturbated in this room.
Allegedly masturbated in this room.
We are going to replicate that now. Like, whoa. Like, no. He was only 48 when he died.
Yeah, that's not too old.
January 25th. He had just turned 28 a week before. Or, 48 a week before he died.
As you know, Scarface Al had already eliminated O'Banion and Weiss.
How many times has he said Scarface Al?
I don't know.
Probably just getting bored of saying Capone. But.
A police squad car pulled up on Clark Street across from the warehouse. Inside were 4 men. 2 in plain clothes, 2 wearing
plain clothes.
their car, walked across the street and entered the warehouse, where 7 of Bugs Moran's men were waiting.
Bugs Moran.
One of the great names ever, I feel like.
But arriving late, he saw what looked like police officers entering his building. Wisely, he decided to stay down the block.
This moment is, fictionalized in,
Bugsy.
Well, yeah, but,
Scarface.
No, but yeah, Some Like It Hot, remember, is like a version of that is in, it's like not actually Capone, but basically, Capone-esque figure George Raft plays.
The original gangland slaying.
Yeah. When you hear gangland slaying, like coup de grace, you think of that. Like,
oh no, Bugsy was about Bugsy Siegel, not Bugs Moran. That's what I was thinking. I was like, nah, somebody else.
He was one of the first photographers on the scene that fateful day.
He died that same year, 1947. Bugsy Siegel.
It's an incredible, gory scene. It didn't bother me a bit. What the hell, it didn't hurt me.
So I just don't care.
That guy said, so this is a freak that said earlier, like, oh, Capone wasn't all that bad. Like, what a demented weirdo.
You become hardened to it. To me, it was a job. To me, it was to get in there and make some 4 or 5 flash pictures and get the hell out of there.
Did you think Capone did it?
Did I think that Capone? Did he have something to do with it? Yeah, yes, I do.
Random Capone apologist. Like, it's almost like he paid
Capone
him.
Estate
it's almost like he paid. No, that Capone himself paid him off.
Years later, from now,
years later, he's still doing it. It's like.
No, I have a definite idea who did it.
Tell me.
Well, Jack McGurn was one. Jack McGurn and Ralph Pierce. They were the only 2 gangsters that Capone had that could have done a thing like this.
So yeah.
It was like Capone was involved. Like he's saying, oh no, he didn't personally do it. It's like no one ever said Al Capone personally did it.
He was
like,
famously in Florida when it happened. So
what an idiot, this guy.
Swears to this day that Jack had nothing to do with it.
I don't care what she said.
Well, dang.
In the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And that's when I got all the notoriety because...
I don't care what she says. Like, oh, well, dang. Well, we won you.
Which he was. I know I said what a horrible thing it was and wasn't
I said it publicly. I was
was
on the record on that. Before anyone else. Oh, Christmas time, huh? Is the Mystery of Al Capone's Falls a Christmas movie?
And I told him it was impossible. He could not have been there.
Right.
And why not?
And why not?
Was it his custom to spend most nights at home?
Oh, yes. Huh?
And he was definitely with you there.
Oh, definitely.
Are we going to open that vault or what? You know? I love it's like... So this guy who may or may not have killed or participated in that, it's like, was he at home that night though? It's like all this for this. Anyway.
February 13th, 1936, the day before Valentine's Day.
Left behind, right beside Jake McGurn's bullet-riddled body was mocking St. Valentine's Day card. The cops kept it. Quote, "You've lost your job, you've lost your dough, your jewels and handsome houses, but things could be worse, you know. You haven't lost your trousers." So nobody could accuse these racket guys of not having a macabre sense of humor.
Did they read it to him before he was killed, or was it like a little parting
They
gift
left
after?
it.
Yeah. Scarface Al.
He's so obsessed with that.
That's after these commercial messages, so stay with us.
The history of Al Capone's vaults will continue after these messages.
Don't go away. Don't go away.
Well, I've been here this long.
Yeah.
I mean,
Al Capone may have been a murdering animal, but he was also a cunning businessman.
May have been a murdering animal.
He lived in this relatively modest home on the south side of town.
God almighty.
He was also a cunning businessman, something we here in the 1980s greatly respect.
And there's nothing wrong with.
There's not one thing wrong with.
Who often gave Apple vendors $10 tips. He bought blocks of baseball.
Oh, he wasn't so bad. This is the he
No,
wasn't so bad.
actually, he
segment.
was.
Dating ordinance to ensure that Chicago's kids would never be forced to drink spoiled milk. Public enemy number
He was very similar to the Black Panthers who had children breakfast drives. It's like, what? Like, yes, I am equating.
But they were far worse because, well, you know, they represented the interests of Black America. It was like, well,
yeah.
had problems of his own. The depression cut deeply into his income.
Oh no.
All of a sudden, the depression cut deeply into his income. No, probably not. I mean, yeah, but like.
Eager to improve his public image, Capone proclaimed to the press that he wasn't a criminal, just a humble supplier of the booze everybody wanted. He also set up soup kitchens to feed Chicago's poor and hungry.
That guy thought the guy was going to fall asleep. Literally understood 3 words of that. Where
that
is
chair.
he?
I think it was a public relations gimmick, but he would go through the poor areas and pat the little Italian kids on the head and pass out money, and he just, I think he consciously cultivated that particular thing.
But image aside, Scarface.
Love that picture. Scarface Al.
Well, these two, well, that's Tommy and Scalise. They were two tough characters. Well, they were really the
All these pictures you got.
opposing forces. Because I had 2 pictures.
And one's like of Rivera's, like one of his wives, and he's like, "Wait, what's that?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing. It's part of my private collection." Like he tries to hide it.
His private erotica.
My own private erotica. My own private she-to-hoe.
Scarface Al Capone was probably one of the most charming and generous mass murderers of his time.
Don't you love in the edits? It's like all of these shots should go on for like a second and a half too long.
Because
Like,
they're editing them live. So.
yeah.
Who knows? When we come back from this next commercial, we're going to tell you the exciting, some might say, melancholy story of the decline and fall of Scarface Al Capone. And of course, we'll tell you what's happening well after these commercial messages.
Melancholy. Like I'm supposed to feel 1 ounce sad for anything that happened to him.
Al Capone's vaults will continue.
It's not getting ready to be a commercial.
Yeah.
There have been so many mob murders, they no longer attracted much attention.
Imagine somebody walking by him and think that he's just talking to himself. Mob
Yeah.
murders. And, like,
Yeah, it's like, and he's looking in the middle of nowhere, like.
yeah.
And recaptured page 1. At the time it happened, it was the 11th murder in 10 days in Chicago. But this one was different.
This one was special.
Just another mobster. In fact, it was Jake Lingle, ace crime reporter for the Chicago Tribune.
This one was able to show everyone his special talent.
This one was
if
invented
you,
by a writer.
If you know what I mean.
He like they already had it ready.
I wonder if he paid for it.
He better have.
As Steve Martin once said in The Jerk, his special purpose, which was actually his penis. His penal area.
His penal code area. He took to a higher level. Oh man, he should have.
The Daily Racing Form didn't give me any luck that day.
He should have interviewed Charles Manson.
Oh my God.
The reaction to the crime was immediate. The public was outraged and the press declared war on the mob. Instead of killing one of their own, they had murdered an innocent civilian. Now, as things turned out, the reporter wasn't all that innocent. In fact, he was a corrupt, highly paid liaison between Capone and the cops.
It's like he keeps getting a little bit closer to the edge. Like he's gonna go off. Like, was that Scott Bakula? Look, I don't think he was on TV back then, though.
Well, I think he was. It almost looked like, gosh, I can't think of anybody's name today. Montgomery Clift to me, from afar, but it was in the 80s, so it would have been. Yeah, no, Quantum Leap was a little later, actually, than this.
Okay.
Himself was charged with more than 20 counts of income tax evasion. In October of that year, he arrived at the Chicago Federal Court building to stand trial. Brought there not by Elliot Ness, but by Frank Wilson. After years of careful examination of nearly 2 million documents, the work of Frank Wilson and his U.S. Treasury Department tax team was about to pay off. On October 24th, 1931, Al Capone was found guilty of deliberately evading the payment of federal income tax.
Now ain't that a land? A man gets a drop on Capone and Capone doesn't even know what he looks like. Hey, this is the bull that finally brought me in on the income tax trap.
Anyway.
In May of 1932, Al Capone boarded the train that would take him to the Atlanta Penitentiary in Georgia. His violent career as the ruler of Chicago's underworld had finally and unceremoniously
Yeah, like a goodbye ceremony, you know?
Yeah.
City of Chicago.
Capone lived in relative comfort. As a famous gangland potentate, he commanded a
Potentate? As a famous gangland potentate.
In the summer of 1934,
That's so weird.
Capone joined 52 of Atlanta's most dangerous and hardened prisoners on a special, heavily guarded prison train. Its destination, Alcatraz. Authorities were so
Alcatraz.
Al Capone Traz.
Al Capone's Traz, if you know, trousers, if you know what I mean.
When Al Capone first set foot on this 12-acre rock right in the middle of San Francisco Bay, he must have felt a sense of foreboding. He was, of course, no stranger to prison walls, but this place, Alcatraz, was frighteningly different. It was converted from an aging military jail into a medieval maximum security prison.
I guess you're aware of the whole Alcatraz in the 70s or 80s. There was that whole Red Power movement where it was like the Native Americans literally went there and took it over and like were protesting or whatever. The whole random thing. Like.
Just a mile and a half away. And the rock's boast that it was escape-proof was well-founded. The island is surrounded by barbed wire, sewer outlets, and utility tunnels which open to the world.
This is where they would film Point Blank.
I've still never seen Escape from Alcatraz.
I've seen about half of it. It was alright. Yeah. The Don Siegel movie. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Don Siegel! Don't get Quentin started about that.
Okay, I won't.
QT.
When Warden James A. Johnson called his infamous name, Capone was led through the 3 steel doors that secured the cell house reception area. Name?
Jill, what's your name? You know my name. Everybody knows my name.
Well, then you want to know it too.
Capone.
First name?
Alphonse.
Number 85.
It's like, yeah, we don't care who you are. Go and
get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Medically examined.
He was abused sexually, like basically.
What's implying?
You know, like he was medically examined, like
he was medically abused.
malpractice.
He was told he needed to drop 50 pounds. He's a fat slob, Alphonse, a fat Alphonse. Or Scarface, become fatso.
Fortunately, malpractice was instituted. That fortunately, like
a lobotomy was enacted.
At 6:30 every morning, a bell would signal the beginning of Al Capone's day.
keep him in there. Keep Geraldo in there.
Yeah.
If he wanted to shave, the procedure was approximately this. He would put an empty matchbox right here, a guard coming by with a razor blade inside. Capone and the other prisoners would then have 3 minutes to complete their shave.
What?
The guard would pick up the razor blade. A second bell would then signal the beginning of the daily prisoner count, followed closely by a third bell, calling the men to breakfast. One February morning in 1938, Capone walked out of his cell seemingly in a daze. He walked aimlessly and mechanically down this corridor.
Mechanically.
He was wearing his Sunday uniform instead of his appropriate workday clothes, and he even failed to fall into line when ordered. The man was completely confused. Here in the medical ward,
The man was in a bad effing way.
Here in the medical ward, where he was once again medically examined.
characteristic of an advanced case of syphilis. Indeed, that was the case. You see, 10 years earlier, in the Lexington Hotel, Capone's 18-year-old mistress was diagnosed as having the disease. At that time, Scarface was urged to be tested, but because of his pathological fear of needles, he refused. Well, a decade later, that refusal had come back to haunt him.
He had once been afraid of needles. He comes from a very good family. It's a pity he's a thief.
That's for America.
Oh, look, our next expert.
Yeah.
Our next expert, literally, probably. I was there when he got here. I was there when he was here. Why you don't that believe me? Like,
was given a change of clothes, given a bath.
let's go.
That's all there was to it. His pants were removed.
His what was removed? His pants? Oh, I thought he said his hands were removed.
His arms were removed.
Yeah,
like-
he said his hands were removed. I was like, what? I guess that would help with the syphilis, theoretically.
That's right. The mighty Capone was not a mighty Capone around here. He was just another inmate.
Just another Alphonse.
Just another loser.
Contemplative theme.
Yeah.
Gradually deteriorating until he had become a pathetic shell of his former self. January 6, 1939, not quite 5 years after arriving here, Capone walked down this dock to the boat that would take him off the island. What was left of Scarface Al Capone was going home. In 1940, Al Capone returned to his home on Palm Island after serving his prison sentence. The progressive effects of neurosyphilis now ravaged his body, and one of his oldest and most loyal associates described Capone to the press as being nutty as a fruitcake. During much of that period, Emery Zurek worked here as a security guard.
What was your basic job? Mostly to keep away at the reporters. There used to be hundreds of reporters here at one time. And keep,
And now here you are. And he has like a little, like, a gun in his sleeve he like goes out and shoots him with in front of everyone.
The long game.
But then then Geraldo's just back at the vault. Like, anyway,
anyways, after being,
medically examined.
Like a gangland stooge.
I was slain,
but yet I rise.
Now I'm imagining Geraldo Rivera reading the lyrics to Lou Reed and John Cale's "A Dream." Wouldn't it be so funny if I died in this dream?
When did that album come out?
1990, I think.
I don't remember if it was the 80s or 90s.
Well, at that time, the police department
used to look around here looking for stuff to do. The Miami-Dade Stockade, like the Dade County Stockade, like we know what happens there.
We need to get T-shirts made of like a screenshot of that moment where it says Miami-Dade,
the Dade County Stockade,
Dade County Stockade, and then like that image of him being like.
We should do that. Or something like I was interned at the Dade County Stockade, and all I got was this T-shirt or something.
Then what if somebody sees that who's a little older and actually was?
Yeah.
Like,
in that font, though.
Yeah. They have a flashback freeze frame. Syphilis.
Destroyed by syphilis. He declined his medical examination, which led to his untimely demise. Demise. My third wife's demise. My Jesus mercy. What?
What if it said "My Sweet Lord"?
Yeah.
LAWD.
Is that "My Sweet Lord" George Harrison?
Yeah.
Was like,
yet,
what?
Yet to be a thing.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you'll know someday.
What? Like, she's like,
it's like
she's
fake
like,
guy Bela
she's like
Lugosi
the
in
chiropractor
yeah.
in Plan 9. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. His grave. All right, Kyle, you ready? Here it is.
All right, we're getting there. Until he's like, we gotta get it out.
The mystery of Al Capone's vaults will continue after these messages.
You can tell at the network, they're like, oh, F. Like.
Well, he's like directing traffic here, you know.
What is this, like
take a knee.
The huddle after a game?
Take a knee.
Yeah, I've done a lot of those now.
Over there may be more to be discovered, maybe not. We found the secret tunnel, we found the hidden stairways, we found the other private spaces. We talked to a lot of people, older people whose memories I think would have otherwise been forever lost if it wasn't for this program. It seems...
Just spinning it like, oh, that was of use.
This is the no spin zone.
This is one time in my life that pot of gold would have been a lot more fun than chasing the rainbows. In any case, you gotta watch out. Show my team here. They work their hearts out. Yeah, come on, I got. All right.
Let's give him a hand, Levi. I think they deserve a good round of applause for contributing to a useless endeavor.
Yeah.
We found some bottles. We found some other artifacts. The tunnels.
It keeps bringing up the tunnels. Like, we found William Gass's The Tunnel. We found where he put the dirt in the furniture and from the tunnel and
that guy right in front of him.
No teeth. Yeah.
So what can I say? I'm sorry. I would thank my buddies here for doing the job. Thank you for watching. I promised all the critics that if we didn't find anything, I'd sing a song. So Chicago, that Tomlin town. All right, I'm gone.
Well, he promised the critics he would sing a song.
Look, watch him walk away.
The mystery of Al Capone's vaults has been brought to you by Budweiser.
Wow.
For that clean, crisp
Man.
This bud's for you. And by the good products and good people.
I got a quote here from him talking about
Quaker
this
Oats.
experience after the fact.
Hang on, we'll let it play out first.
Yeah. So
where did he go?
Brought to you by Budweiser and Quaker Oats.
What is he?
So,
there they go.
Convenient shopping and sightseeing. Air transportation by Jet America, the airline that gives you that personal touch. Rental cars by Dollar Rent-A-Car, Chicago.
Dollar Rent-A-Car.
Never heard of that ever.
I don't know if I trust that, honestly. Oh, it was a post-credit scene?
They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They're cutting around like
Bill Foster.
All right. Written by.
I saw the copy he read.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says, although it gathered criticism, wonder why, and became infamous for its disappointing ending, the program was the most watched syndicated television special that year with an estimated audience of 30 million. After the show, Rivera was quoted as saying, quote, "Seems like we struck out," end quote. He said on April 20th, 2016 edition of Fox News Channel program The Five that he went right across the street and got tequila drunk after the special aired, then went back to his hotel room and put the "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door. So that's literally where he's going. He's literally walking across the street.
He literally knew
drunk.
he was thinking ahead of time. He was like, I guess I'm gonna go get drunk over there.
And in honor of the Prohibition era. However, in his 1991 autobiography, Exposing Myself, that's the name of his autobiography, is Exposing Himself, he wrote, quote, regarding the event, my career was not over. I knew, but had just begun. And all because of a silly, high-concept stunt that failed to deliver on its titillating promise. So,
titillating, exposing myself.
Yeah, what's
the situation with Bette Midler? I don't know.
All the pieces are there.
The opinions and views expressed are not necessarily those of
Tribune Entertainment
TEC. Yeah.
All rights reserved. So again, that's Mr. Al Capone's vault. You'll get a $250,000 fine if you copy this program.
Well, here we are.
Yeah.
Keep going, keep going.
Oh.
I swear if they would have zoomed in on the black, like the Westgate group. The Watergate group? What?
Yeah.
So,
what'd you think, Levi?
I feel like it lived up to the madness.
I do. I mean, he was being a little, protecting himself. There's a lot of hedging throughout. A lot of, we think.
Yeah.
People say.
Right.
Why not think that, especially with the tunnel thing. It's like,
yeah.
Well, we don't know that that's what happened, but one could wonder.
Well,
one
those
could
tunnels
think,
weren't built by him, were they? They didn't say they were.
I think they were existing, and the speculation is that they were maybe used.
I'd say that's a pretty good possibility,
but specifically with the stuff with the older people, he was being a little self-protecting, but that is actually true in terms of it was a chance in the 1980s to talk to those people. A lot of them were very old anyway, so they probably weren't around much longer, to get their memories, their impressions of Al Capone, and again to introduce that to audiences in the 80s who, again, especially kids, that would have been probably a new thing. A lot of generations of kids, obviously, for those who would have grown up on the Untouchable show from way back when, a reminder of that. So, if nothing else, it was a
nostalgia.
In that way, it was a successful broadcast in terms of kind of being this big omnibus Al Capone level of content that obviously stupidly came to this disappointing end of nothing was there, but again, it's about the friends we made along the way.
Jimmy, John, all the friends,
And he did even say something along, this is one of the times I would have liked to find the pot of gold instead of just chasing the rainbow.
Yeah, what a great line,
Yeah.
So,
Geraldo Rivera. True legend. True broadcasting legend. And again, it's funny that, you would imagine, this would have ruined most broadcasters.
Oh, yeah.
They would have never.
Oh, yeah.
But that just shows you that this is the 80s, the era of, commit trash, second chances abound,
Well, he couldn't have been the only...
he shouldn't have been the only one that fought for this.
Right. So it's down the line, at a certain point, there should have... what they really should have done, like I said, was made a documentary out of things instead of live broadcasting it. But they wanted to make it event television. Yeah. And honestly, not to bring it back too much to this, but still reading that Chinatown book, I'm almost done with. They talked about a lot, kind of getting towards the end, about how everything was going towards this blockbuster model of showing everything big publicity for everything, television, all this stuff. It fits in with all that of let's just get this big event thing, and it doesn't really matter what happens because we had them the whole time, and it doesn't matter, right? Now, of course, they would have probably learned from their lesson and not done something like this again, exactly, because it was so infamous. Because for a long time, when I was growing up as a kid, I knew who Geraldo Rivera was through Fox News primarily, seeing him on there. But, my dad and other people always said about him, whenever I asked, I was like, who's this Geraldo guy or whatever, And they would literally say, they would talk about who he was, and then literally within 2 sentences, this was the first thing brought up, was, there was that time he had the whole vault thing, and, so that is a big part of his whole legacy, though, still, is him screwing this up.
Right.
But like I said, I think it's wrong to think, to just totally blame him. It's like, well, there were a million people, well, not literally a million, but there was at least a boardroom of people who sat down and said, yeah, we won't go in there ahead of time. We'll just go ahead and
Right.
shoot it and see what happens.
Well,
you
the
know?
what if.
Right.
And also the, like, I guess just the, well, something has to be
Right.
there. It can't be empty. You can't have nothing. Well,
what was funny, too,
found
is
some
you
bottles.
looked at it, it's like when they took the first wall down, they were like, oh, there's another wall. Like,
yeah.
And then they're like, oh, there's a couple bottles here, and then it's like they kept, and then there was just dirt and
Yeah.
another wall, and it's like, so it just, then it just gets to a point where it's like, I think that's just the foundation, guys. I think
Yeah.
you're just hitting the wall, like, you
Yeah.
know, but, yeah, I don't know.
But what times we had, you know, it was all about.
Well,
the
I had a
journey.
good time. I don't know
did
about
too.
you, but
I certainly did.
it was a good laugh, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Just
speaking
as
of
far
good
as
laughs.
live television of the time, it
Mhm.
was a great window into, man, how crappy all this
Yeah.
was, like, you know.
Again, speaking of good laughs, next episode we'll be tackling The Untouchables, 1987, I believe. 87. And
so literally a year after this, they made that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and
there must have been a whole like Al Capone deal going on at that time or something.
Al Capone does my shirts, like
that was in the 2000s.
Yeah, I know later,
yeah,
but
right.
And then of course Public Enemies from 2009. Again, we're both huge fans of crime movies, gangster movies. Neither one of these movies are good.
No.
And we're going to talk about why next.
Very in depth.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're confused, if you're like
Yeah,
Al
I mean,
Capone,
these are movies we've been.
If you're like Al Capone and you're walking down to breakfast syphilis confused about why don't y'all like those, then tune in because you'll find out. Don't worry.
This is Kyle.
Very explicit detail. This is Levi.
Take care. God bless.
Damn, man. This a fucking Bentley?
This is, yeah.
How'd you get the money for it?
Well, I'm old.
You are? How old?
69, 69, 69, 69, 69, 69, 69, 69, 69, 69, 69, 69, 69.
You're a pimp. You're a player. You're a player.
Player.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a
Still
minute.
drive them.
What do they drive?
Escalade.
Dude, you gotta be kidding me. Come on. Escalade? Wait a minute. Okay. Pop quiz. Who's your favorite rapper?
Me?
Yeah.
Eminem.
I ripped the fucking time to style, better server.
Eminem? Why?
He's the best lyricist. Why are you speaking with me with your camera hit?
It's a light.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
You should make it. You should do movies of your travels and your impromptu conversations.
Man, I'd like to, but the thing is like, I'm too sad.